Hey, what's up everyone? I have another quick video to do. Well, at least I'll try to make it as quick as possible. This was a theory of mine that I thought would likely take place during this super blue blood moon, and it turns out it is correct. High tide and giant waves have flooded several places, including Scituate, Massachusetts. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Storm surge blamed on January 31st. Full blue blood moon. Floods are taking place there with high tide and extreme tidal waves. And flooding in Chiapas and across Tabasco after 278 millimeters of rain fall in 24 hours. And the Pichucalco River is overflowing as this flooding takes place. And you can convert the milliliters into inches or feet. And I reported on this in my last video where these giant hailstone-like objects or large spheres fell from the sky in Peru. And the Popocatépetl volcano erupts 4 times in a row, sending columns of ash 3,000 meters above its crater. And a 6.1 earthquake near Afghanistan, or in Afghanistan, a young girl was actually killed in housing collapse, and several people were injured as seismic shocks were felt in Kabul, New Delhi, and Lahore, whatever the pronunciation is. In Afghanistan, the earthquake took place in Pakistan as well. Or Lahore, could be Lahore. U.S. states are also, apparently, this is some funny news, using beet juice, molasses, cheese waste, and beer to de-ice roads. This article says many are going to start licking the roads now. So, apparently they're using that instead of salt and brine. So, anyway, underground El Paso, Texas, or El Paso, Texas, is like Swiss cheese, they said. It's full of holes. Border Patrol finds mysterious 75-foot tunnel in El Paso, Texas, and its origin could actually go back 100 years. What's up in the sky? Crazy intense colors appear and float in the sky over Brazil. This has been taking place a lot in Brazil. These rainbow colors floating in the sky in the country of Brazil. This was posted on social media 4 hours ago here on Twitter. And the magnetic field is shifting, just as many predicted and thought would happen, including myself. The poles are flipping, and this will get really bad. Hashtags are pole shift, space, technology, and prepare. There's the image shown. The shield that protects the Earth from solar radiation is under attack from within. Now, actually, I believe that is the magnetosphere that protects us from the solar radiation. We can't prevent it, but we ought to prepare, they state, which there's not really that much you can do about a situation like that. But one day in 1905, the French geophysicist Bernard Brunhes brought back to his lab some rocks he'd unearthed from freshly cut road near the village of Pontferrand. When he analyzed their magnetic properties, he was astonished at what they showed. As to what they showed, there were millions of years ago, the Earth's magnetic poles had been on opposite sides of the planet. North was south and south was north. The discovery spoke of planetary anarchy. Scientists had no way to explain it. Today we know that pole shifts have changed places hundreds of times, most recently 780,000 years ago or so. Sometimes the poles try to reverse positions but then snap back into place in what is called an excursion. An excursion. The last time was about 40,000 years ago. We also know that when they flip next time, the consequences for the electrical and electromagnetic infrastructure that runs modern civilization will be dire. The question is, when will that happen? That's the question. When that will occur. Because everyone knows that with satellite GPS technology, with internet, cell phone signal, and our electrical grids, and basically computer technology and the entire grid. Basically, I'll just say the entire grid with signals and TV and internet and phone signals and like all these electromagnetic frequencies we have, radio frequencies, these EMFs, they will go down during that time when that happens, and it would end our modern civilization's way of life. This has been known for a long time, but the last one that happened was in the 1800s when, well, this was a sunblast. This is different than a pole shift. The last sunblast that occurred, that's another threat that could also end the grid, quote-unquote the grid. The sunblast that occurred back in the 1800s actually totally messed up the telegraph wires, and we have advanced so much further since then that we've become 100% dependent upon this type of technology and the grid, and so to the point where consequences would be irreversible for many, many decades, many years, if not many decades, like 50 years or so. It would take, I believe one study showed that it would take at least 10 years to get the first radio signals back, and then it would take tens and tens of years to be able to get things even to begin to be restored back to the way people remembered. But yeah, our dependency upon the grid with heating and cooling and everything is just almost 100% today. Communications and everything. Because, I mean, the entire grid from internet, the fiber optics cables, cell phone, home phone, TV, radio, everything, electricity from heating and cooling, water flow, everything depends upon the grid, and that can go down. Years ago, they were not as advanced during the 1800s. Obviously, when this last solar blast that was detrimental to the telegraph wires took place. So that's all we had at the time was telegraph wires. That's a different scenario. This is a pole shift. That would also totally end our modern way of life. So, in the past few decades, let's read what they have to say here. Geophysicists have in the past few decades tried to answer that question through satellite imagery and math. They have used both of these and figured out how to peer deep inside the Earth to the edge of the molten metallic core where the magnetic field is continually being generated. It turns out that the dipole, the dipole or two orderly magnetic poles our compasses respond to is under attack from within. The latest satellite data from the European Space Agency's Swarm Trio, which began reporting in 2014, show that a battle is raging at the edge of the core, like factions planning a coup. Swirling clusters of molten iron and nickel are gathering strength and draining energy from within from the dipole or dipole, whatever, the dipole. The North Magnetic Pole is on the run. Years ago, I remember seeing on NBC News with Brian Williams where he said Magnetic North is on the run. So that was, you can look that up on YouTube as well. The North Magnetic Pole is on the run, a sign of enhanced turbulence and unpredictability. A cabal in the southern hemisphere has already gained the upper hand over about a fifth of the surface. A revolution is shaking up. If these magnetic blocks gain enough strength and weaken the dipole even more, They will force the North and South poles to switch places as they strive to regain supremacy. Scientists can't say for sure that is happening right now. The dipole could beat back the interlopers, but they say, so to speak, that this phenomenon is intensifying and that they can't rule out the possibility that a reversal is beginning. It's time to wake up to the dangers and start preparing for the possibilities of occurrences like this to take place. Because in our modern society, humans tend to think that they are just invincible, that everything is just, yeah. The Earth's magnetic field protects our planet from dangerous solar and cosmic rays like a giant shield. As the poles switch places, or try to anyway, that shield is weakened. Scientists estimate that it could waste away to as little as a tenth of its usual force. The shield could be compromised for centuries, while the poles, that's hundreds and hundreds of years that this could take place. Already changes within the Earth have weakened the field over the South Atlantic so much that the satellites exposed to the resulting radiation have experienced memory failure. The radiation isn't hitting the surface yet, but at some point when the magnetic field has dwindled enough, it could be a whole different story. Daniel Baker, the director of the Laboratory of Space Physics at the University of Colorado Boulder, Colorado, one of the world's experts on how cosmic radiation affects the Earth itself, fears that parts of the planet will become uninhabitable during a reversal, that you couldn't live at all on many places of Earth during this reversal, and it would definitely affect the living creatures on Earth, or even not just biologically harm them, and we would be the ones that aren't invincible would be killed. How bad could it be? Scientists have never established a link between previous pole reversals and catastrophic events and catastrophes like mass extinctions, but the world today is the world of today is not the world it was of 780,000 years ago, when the poles last reversed according to scientific data and finds, or even 40,000 years ago when they tried to reverse but didn't fully reverse, they just tried. Today there are nearly 7,600,000,000 people on Earth, twice as many as in 1970 alone. We have matched the chemistry of the atmosphere and the ocean with cities and industries and networks of roads and networks of networks, the internet and the grid itself, slicing up access to many other creatures, and we've pushed perhaps a third of all the species on this world toward extinction and have imperiled the habitats of many, many more. It's very sad, really. And cosmic and ultraviolet radiation to this mix, add that to it, the consequences for life on Earth could be in ruins. Could be ruinous. And the perils are not just biological. The vast cyber-electric cocoon that has become the central processing system of modern civilization is in grave danger. Solar energetic particles can ripple through, like I mentioned earlier. They rip through the sensitive miniature electronics of the growing number of satellites circling the Earth, badly damaging them, and the modern technology that we see today. The satellite timing systems that govern electric grids, they could build the grid's infrastructures, could be torched in mass. Because grids are so tightly coupled with each other, failure would race across the globe, causing a domino run of blackouts that could last for decades. As I mentioned earlier, the consequences of this, that it would last for decades. I'm going to copy the link as well here so you can also read the full article for yourself. This is on the Strange Sounds Twitter page and strangesounds.org. I'm going to see if there's more here. But these dangers are rarely considered by those whose job it is to protect the electric grid, the electronic pulse of civilization. More satellites are being put into orbit and more technology is being used every day, and more highly miniaturized and therefore more vulnerable electronics. The electrical grid becomes more interconnected every single day despite the greater risks from solar storms. No lights, no computers, no cell phones, no basically nothing. Even flushing a toilet or using your sink or whatever, or even filling a car's gas tank would be impossible, and that's just for starters. Everything would end. You couldn't use water flow or anything because it's all under the grid. All satellite interconnectivity and technology are disconnected part of the grid, but progress on learning how to track damaging space weather has not kept pace. Learning how to track this, and private satellite operators aren't collaborating and sharing information on how their electronics are withstanding space radiation, a practice that actually could help everyone protect their gear. We have blatantly and blithely built our civilization's critical infrastructure during a time when the planet's magnetic field, and solar radiation as well, was relatively strong, not accounting for our planet's fields, the fields bent for anarchy. Not only is the field turbulent and ungovernable, but at this point it is unpredictable. It will have its way with us no matter what we do. Our task is to figure out how to make it hurt as little as possible. The story is based on the following book, The Spinning Magnet, which you can find here. I'm going to post a link in the description below for this article for you to read for yourself. So, much love. I thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you are doing well. Stay safe, or as safe as possible. Peace. Bye.